If they have the power tools, then you'll be using power tools, which is another whole safety thing. But if you don't, then you're going to doing it by hand with a tool, and that's hard work. Okay. And so I want to go over some of the tools that I have here, particularly because it helps them know what they are and how they function. But first of all, let's talk about safety. Eyes, hands, feet, and breathing. Okay. Because you always want to see for the rest of your life, you wear safety glasses. Imperative. You know what it's like to get dust in your eyes just when the wind blows. But when you're using tools, especially power tools that cause dust and so forth, you don't want that in your eyes. And you don't want to be drilling something and have a piece of wood fly, whatever, in your eyes or anywhere else. So safety glasses always. If you are using something where you're sanding, creating a lot of dust, you want to use some kind of breathing protector, okay? Because you don't want that stuff in your lungs. You don't. Good boots. And the best reason for good boots is if you have a power tool like a drill and you drop it, you don't want it to, because it'll keep going until it stops, until friction causes it to stop. And you don't want to drop it and have it go through your toes or go through your feet or anything else. That's the top end thing that can happen, or so. And if you're using the power tool, then you'll want to know how to use it and how it can hurt you. Okay, so we'll get to that on this other table first. So proper shoes. Okay, obviously flip flops are not great. If you're tearing up a staircase or something like that and a nail or a screw is sticking up, then you have a problem. The houses you'll be working on, that I worked on in these projects also, are old houses where they have lap boards, which is just, there's some 2x4s forming the walls, and they took some skinny boards and nailed them. And so there's nails everywhere, little nails, tacks, big nails and stuff like that. And they're very dry. And nails are very old, and so you don't want to step on them. You don't want to get one in your hand, your knee, or anything else like that. So wear good gloves, wear good boots, and good clothing, a little rougher clothing, so that doesn't happen to you. Also, use a tool.
Can I just ask, have you guys been given like a list of clothes and stuff that you're supposed to wear?
That'll come.
Not yet. Okay.
That'll come. No. Use a tool that each tool invented has a specific job or purpose. Okay. I'm believing that you guys know these are hammers, but there's a difference between hammers. Okay. This one has a rubber handle, and the reason for that is if you're using it a lot, the vibration and stuff like that in your hand, it's just going to wear and tear on ligaments, bones, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're using it a lot, this is what you're probably using. This is a great carpenter's hammer. You're just tacking and so forth. Good flat head there, and a claw on the end. The claw is used for prying nails. Please understand that a nail is smooth and not like a screw. So if you're trying to pry a screw out of something, if it's the wrong material, if it's drywall, you're going to create a hole this big, because when you pull it, it's just going to pull the whole wall, okay, as far as it can. So you want to use it properly. Another thing that you want to do if you're going to pull a nail and you want to keep this wall pretty, then you'll put a board or something underneath it. It helps with leverage, but it also helps the hammer from going through the wall itself. Okay? So it's good to use the proper tool. For example, if I'm hammering a nail and it's only 1 inch, and I got to hold it with 2 fingers like this, you don't want to use this. This is a sledgehammer. This is for breaking things. So obviously, if I do this and I miss a nail, I'm breaking the wrong things. Okay? Got it? So use it for proper things. Yeah. The difference, pipe wrench. This can open up, so if you have to turn a pipe like for faucets and big things like pipes in the bathroom and so forth, you'd use a pipe wrench. Different than what they call a monkey wrench, okay, or an adjustable wrench. I don't know why they call it monkey wrench. It's an adjustable wrench, but you can adjust it down the screws. This one doesn't stay as tight on a nut, when you're taking it off, and so it has the tendency to slip off and so forth, which means you want to be wearing gloves because you're doing something like this and it slips off and you bang your fingers and knuckles on the wall. It creates, creates a little pain. I try to say use a specific tool because obviously this was a screwdriver once and it's not very straight anymore because somebody used this as a pry tool and tried to pry something off and it bends it. Whereas this is a pry tool. Okay, if I want to pry this off the wall, then I get it under here like this. I'll put something underneath it, a piece of wood or something, so I don't damage the wall. And I use a pry tool to pry things. This was another screwdriver, and somebody decided to use it to stir paint. So it's got extra, it's too thicker than you can put a screw in, put it into the head of a screw.
What do we stir paint with, Coach Jones?
Well, we have a paint thing over.
We don't have a stir paint.
A paint stirrer, a paint stirrer, wooden paint stirrer. Okay. Types of screws. A regular head screwdriver fits a straight slot. Okay, and that's what we'd see as a regular head screwdriver. A Phillips head screwdriver has notches in it and it's pointed, and so you would have a thicker one. I'll let you look at this later for a bigger bolt, and a smaller one for a wood screw or something like that. It's always good to use the right one. Screws used to be steel, so they were easier to get out of things, especially if they've been there for a long while. A lot of people like to paint over top of screws, and so these screws here get painted over. And so first you got to get the paint out of the slot, and then break loose the paint, and that strips the screw, and then you can't get the screw out. Okay, so use the proper screwdriver for each thing. Another tool is that this is to take nails out when you're pulling nails, and somebody decided they couldn't get out, so they took a hammer and tried to use it that way, and obviously it breaks the tool. So use the tool. If you need that, I thought about one. Use a claw and a hammer, okay, or you get a pry bar. Okay, this is a painter's tool, or a carpenter's tool actually. This is one of the best tools made. It's got the edge is not flat like a screwdriver. It's actually kind of beveled down so that I can slide it under things. Great for taking off floorboards and stuff like that. Pointed edge. It used to be pointed until someone broke it off. But the idea is I can get in here and get the paint loose. Before I get this nail out and take this whole thing off and rip it, and then it tears the whole wall, and you got to repair the whole wall. Okay, so it has a lot of different. You can put it on a bolt, certain size bolt, and unscrew it, and so forth. So this is a great tool. X-Acto knife, another thing you'll be using. These are very thin razor blades. You unscrew it, and it opens up so that you can change the blade. Always use a sharp blade. Sharpest you can get is important. If it's sharp, it cuts, and you don't have to press, because when you press, things break. When you press, things slip, and you don't want to do that to yourself. But it comes apart, and usually it stores extra razor blades, and they're sharp. So whenever you're not using it, you always close it up, and you simply do that with a slide guide and close it up. Okay? Don't leave tools open, or in case of electrics, don't leave them plugged in if you're not using it. So even my table saw, as soon as I'm done cutting a piece of wood and I'm going to go measure something else, I unplug it. I unplug it so if my kids come into the room and they don't turn it on and try to cut something, okay? Because they don't know how to use the tool. If you're working on something like an electric plug or something like that, you want to turn the electricity off first. It is a shock.
I can't imagine they're going to be working on electricity.
But you never know. You're taking a wall apart. I've taken walls apart and found wires that they quit using in the wall. Okay? I've taken a light apart out of a bathroom, and I went to turn the light off the switch thinking if I turn it off the switch, there's no electricity going to the light.
Is that true?
And it wasn't true. There was electricity going to the light. So then I go down to the fuse box and I pop the fuse that's supposed to go to that plug, that light switch, and it didn't work. And what I found out was when they built my house, it was the last one to be built, and they're using electricity from the house next door. So they ran a wire in the ground and hooked it in, and they were using that, and that was the hot wire. So it was only on and off when my neighbors turned it off, unless I turned off my switch also. But it was crazy because here I was thinking I'd done everything right, and I go to take it out and I get a little shock. Okay, tape measures. They are come in all kinds of different sizes. You can get rulers, whatever, but these are the best kind for working on it. Unless you got one of these, and it'll, you know, with laser figure out how the measurements of your rooms and stuff. Those are great. But because they wind up by themselves, a lot of people like to sit here and do this to them. And because it's tin, if you bend it too much, it'll just break right off. If you do this too many times, then the little spring in there breaks off. And so, so it's really used for measuring and not for nervous habits.
Painting.
Okay? Painting, we're getting on to painting. I'm moving right on down. The biggest thing about painting is don't load up whatever you're painting with. So if I'm going to start painting an edge or something, I'm using a sponge, I want just a little bit of paint on the edge. Okay? You don't want to do it fast and thick. You want to do one layer at a time, a little bit at a time. Because what happens generally is you stick the whole thing in, and we go like this, it starts dripping down your arm, you're everywhere else, okay? Same thing. And so what you do is you dip it slightly in your paint, and then go ahead and get some off on the prepared section of the paint bucket, and paint. Okay? Same with rollers. Always clean your stuff, honestly. Always clean your stuff when you're done using it, or the paint will be there forever. And you can use this roller over and over again. But the primary thing with this is you get a little paint on one spot, and then you roll it back and forth until it gets fully on the paint. And then when you paint, you're going to paint in V's like this. Okay? You're going to use that paint, the roller, to spread it further down. Okay? Rather than let's goop the whole thing up, get loads of paint on it, drip it across the floor. That's why we have these also. And then gob it on there, and then have this big gob of paint here, and be going, I'm running out of paint, and it's not very thick over here, and stuff like that. So you want to really work on just getting a little bit of paint on each thing.
And don't forget, if you roll it really fast, it gets all of it.
It's coming off. It's coming off on you. Okay. Yeah, and so you want to use this, but these things don't work if you're going to do this real fast and all the paint gets on the floor, and then you're walking in it, and then you walk down the person's carpet in the living room, and there's your feet print across the floor with paint. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I'm going to talk now.
so nice and soft.
Okay,
She's gonna
so,
go for it.
yeah, I like, when I paint, I always have paper towel in the other hand to hold it.
Wet or dry?
Has anybody ever painted before? A room? I'm not talking about an art, I like a room. You guys have painted a room? Awesome.
Cool.
Are you a little bit familiar with these tools? Yes?
Yeah.
Cool, okay. I have like 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, you got 5 minutes.
So my question to you guys is, when you think of the word work, so this is all, like these are tools, and what do you do with tools? When you think of the word physical work, what do you think of? Just yell out. What do you
Better
think
drink a
of?
lot of water.
Hydrate, construction, what else?
Hammering.
Hammering. What emotions do you have about work? How do you feel about it? This kind of work.
Depends on what you're doing with that.
Depends on what you're doing with it.
Like I think it would be really fun to use a sledgehammer and destroy a wall and paint.
I know, destroying stuff is kind of releasing, yeah. So the physical work sounds pretty cool to you guys? Yeah?
Anybody allergic to work?
So my question is, do you think the Bible has anything to say about work?
Do a lot of it.
Does anybody think the Bible has anything to say about work? Yeah? Do you think God, when you think about God, do you think that He works? Yeah? What's some of God's work? You hear the phrase, oh, God's working. We even sing, God is working, He's still working. What ways does God work?
What ways doesn't he? It's like everything.
Yeah.
He works by making the world.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of. In Genesis 2, it says, on the seventh day, God had finished His work of creation. So He created the whole world. Now, He created it by speaking it out, but yet it was work, right? So sometimes on SMPs that include physical work, physical labor, sometimes young people don't want to really get into the work. And what I want to encourage you to do is to really get into the work, not just because it's the right thing to do, but a couple things that the Bible actually says about work. Two things in Proverbs, you don't need to write these down, but Proverbs 21:5 says, good planning, so we're planning now, right? We're learning about how to use these tools. Hopefully you learned something. And hard work leads to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty, which is interesting. And then Proverbs 13:4 says, lazy people want much but get little, but those who work hard will prosper. So it actually talks about working hard relating to somehow to prosper. But my favorite is Ephesians 4:28. We read this on page. It's use your hands for good hard work. Use your hands for good hard work, then give generously to others in need. And to me, like, that should be your verse of the week, because that's exactly what you're doing. And your hard work is giving to the people that you're serving. And I would hope that you guys also would be able to give of yourselves in other ways to the homeowners, because I think most of the homeowners are in, have you talked about that?
Not yet.
Are in the home. And so some of them will really be blessed by the actual work, and you paint things, you make things look nicer. But some of them might be blessed by just you sitting down and talking to them for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And also, I think, seeing how you all interact with each other. So are you kind and thoughtful to each other? So always keep in mind, you're in someone's house, and you're helping them, but in God's eyes, all of you guys are the same. So treating those homeowners as really God's children, just like you guys are, I think is really an important thing. And I need to stop there because that's...
Yeah, so that's just the last little thing I wanted to touch on, is when we're in the home of the homeowners, of being really respectful to their space, because for those of you who have been on projects like this before, you know that these homes will not look probably like your home, or homes of your friends, or homes that you might have been in before. So being really thoughtful about even our body language. So like obvious body language would be like holding our noses, but even, you know, making like faces at the things that we might see, because it might smell differently than your house. It might look different than your house. It might, you might hear sounds that are different than in your house. So, and we'll talk about that more when we're there. But the big three that I wanted to have us take away are actually in the backboard. Work hard, love people, have fun. This is the work hard, right? We're gonna work hard on our work sites. We're gonna love people on our work site, our homeowners, and one another. And we're gonna have fun also in the evenings, in the mornings, and even on our work sites as well.
And you can have fun working too.
You can have fun working, yeah. Working can be really fun. You can sing while you work, like that princess from Enchanted. It would be great.
Or you get to know each other.
Get to know each
When you're
other.
doing something repetitive, you talk to each other about
Absolutely.
what you have in common or find out what you have in common.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can make a new best friend, another new best friend, just like you made today. All right, friends, I'm gonna pray us out, and then we're gonna get out of here. Shall we pray? Heavenly and gracious Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the gift of life and the gift of serving you this summer. I pray that in our time together in Pittsburgh, Lord, that we would glorify you. You would give us the ability to love our homeowners well, to love one another well, to work hard for your glory, and to have fun while we're doing it, Lord. We love you and we trust you, and we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.